Hello and welcome to the Vandy 24/7 podcast presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Chris Lee. Speaking of FanDuel, Vanderbilt plays Ole Miss in basketball on Tuesday. No line at FanDuel yet, but I'm sure that'll be coming soon. Anyway, Chip Frederick joins me in today's show. We'll discuss Vanderbilt baseball after what frankly was a disastrous weekend in Las Vegas. Before we get to all that, our title sponsor for 2026 is Sylvan Park Ventures, a Nashville-based investment firm partnering with entrepreneurs, companies, and real estate opportunities throughout growth capital and long-term relationships. Find out more at sylvanparkventures.com. Basketball season presented by the Wash House. Commodore fans, don't forget your weekends, or don't waste your weekend stuck doing laundry when you could be cheering on the Doors. At the Wash House Laundry Center, we got your back with our brand new pickup and delivery service. We'll wash it, pick it up, fold it, drop it back off, fresh, clean, and game day ready. Perfect for busy students, fans, and Nashville families on the go. Schedule your pickup now at washhouseclean.com and anchor down with the Wash House Laundry Center. Also brought to you by Scott Pettis Realty. They sponsor baseball season. If you're looking to buy or sell a home in Middle Tennessee, trust Scott Pettis Realty. Vanderbilt graduate class of 2008, Nashville native with more than 18 years of real estate experience. Scott's deep roots and personal connections across the city give his clients a true edge. Whether you're buying your first home, selling a luxury property, or looking for that next investment property. From starter homes to teardowns to million-dollar listings, Scott has done it all. He personally guides each client through each step of the buying or selling process. No teams, no handoffs, no shortcuts. With the 2026 housing market shifting to a more balanced market, now's the time to act. Have an experienced agent in your corner. Meet Scott at Scott Pettis. That is PETTUS.com. Let Scott get to work for you. Chip Frederick, thanks for joining us. Hope you're doing well today.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, it's we were just talking before we went on the air. Don't remember in the Corbin era any weekend. You know, they had these classics, Las Vegas and Arizona and California and out in LA. I don't recall a sweep. Now, it wasn't a sweep by the same team, but a team getting on the airplane 0-3 in February. And that's something that's unusual. I know it's unusual for the fan base, and it's unusual for the staff and the players. But yeah, just bunch of different things happen over the weekend that were unexpected. We had some, we've had injuries on this staff, possibly have another injury that we were not aware of the severity of with Nye. And so, yeah, just a lot of things up in the air, but not a good weekend for the black and gold in baseball. I thought it was going to be one of those weekends, those proverbial weekends that Vanderbilt fans gnash their teeth at, where basketball loses, baseball gets swept, women's team prevented the disaster weekend with their performance yesterday in a great game. I got to watch that. So, yeah, but just not a weekend that I think was probably pretty quiet flight on the way back from Las Vegas.
Yeah, I'm thinking when that's happened, it was a little different. But there was one year, do you remember, it was about this time, it might have even been opening weekend. Vanderbilt went to Stanford.
Right, yeah.
I want to say it was either 09 or 10 maybe, and it was a young team and just got hammered like in 3 games out west. But it was, it was all one series and one team, so that was a little different.
Yeah, and what I think this weekend taught us, and with the parity that's involved with college baseball right now with the portal, we've talked about that. Everyone's aware of that. Teams are better. You've got teams that not going to sneak up on anybody anymore. But wow, I mean, the difference between playing Marist and Eastern Michigan, during the week, and then you go out to Las Vegas, and you look at the schedule. You got UC Irvine, which I just saw them. They're in the top 20. I think D1 baseball does a mid-major top 20, and they're up near the top 2 or 3. everybody looks at Arizona's record and poo-poos that. And I mean, Arizona, Arizona's
They were a
better.
College World Series team a year ago with a lot of
Yeah,
guys
I mean,
back.
so those statistics, win-loss records. I know they people were saying, well, this should be an easy game, roll over them. Well, it wasn't, and so I mean, yes, there is parity in baseball, but the Eastern Michigan and the Marist games really didn't, I think, tell us a whole lot about this
Yeah.
team, and it could have been just one of those weekends. I know a lot of people on your board are ready to jump off large buildings and say different things, but and I've got some things written down as far as causes of concern that I would have if I were a coaching staff member. But it's still early, and there are a lot of teams that are losing some games they shouldn't be losing, or at least they thought they shouldn't be losing. We saw that crazy last week, the middle of the week. The number of teams that lost in the SEC midweek was crazy. So still a lot of time to right the ship, but there are some concerns I think that the staff probably has, and some of them are obvious and some of them aren't.
Yeah, I think this is the most concerned I've been about Vanderbilt baseball in a while. And I don't mean long term, but I mean like for a season. I don't even, like losing that series. I think they played 3 good teams. People are going to laugh at Arizona. That's fine. Arizona is won 4 College World Series. It's always got talent. Again, went to the College World Series a year ago. I mean, forget 1-8. It had lost some close games. It's the fact, like, they've now played 6 Power 5 teams. They've lost 5 of them. Several of the games haven't been close. And, like, I don't think the midweek games, I know people get their joy out of, they hit 5 home runs today and they run great, and you need some of those to get your win totals up, because like you're really going to need them now with the way the SEC season starts. You're going to have to bag enough wins to where if you get to May, you got a shot to get in the tournament. So that becomes kind of critical now. But like even in the games that they were winning like that, the pitching staff's inability to throw strikes consistently, to put guys on base, like what I tell when you're playing a bad team, really, for the most part, what I pay attention to is like, where are you struggling? And like, even in those games against the bad teams, they were struggling to, with free passes. And they are hands down the worst team in the SEC at this point of the season. In terms of runners allowed per inning, I pay attention to that more than I do ERA. That can be a little flukish. They're the wildest team in the SEC. They have walked or hit 15.1% of batters. The next worst number, Missouri, 14.6. LSU in there at 13.8. You got some teams under 10%. I think, to me, there's a little bit of noise in the numbers. I'll get to the one spot where I can kind of see it a little bit, but that is super concerning to me. And that's before we even get into, are they getting any of those 3 lefties back? When's it going to happen? And whatever it was that went wrong with Austin Nye this weekend.
Yeah, and when you have Shorey, Stillman, and Green who haven't even pitched, and granted 2 of those, one's a freshman, one's a sophomore. You've got Green, who's an experienced reliever, who's been in big ball games, and so an argument could be that none of those 3 guys pitch. It really, I mean, when your left-handed side is just depleted right now. You don't even have that part of your weaponry to throw out a team. And yeah, I mean, the numbers don't lie on the hit batsmen and the walks, and the Nye situation is troubling because I'd heard some different things. I watched part of the game, and then I heard some different things about why he went out. But the glaring thing, the thing that I hate, and it just, again, I'm not speculating anything, but when your velocity is off by 5 miles an hour, I think he usually throws 94, 95, and he was at 89, 90. That's something to be concerned about.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they pulled him. So we still haven't heard anything. I don't think you've heard anything. Nothing's been put out there. But, that's a guy who was, you look at his stat line. I mean, he had 13 strikeouts in 10 innings this year, which is, you look at comparative, the top 2, Fennell and Taylor. I mean, he was a guy that was really throwing well. At least the first outing and he only lasted an inning. So that's troubling in itself too. So yeah, there's some. Coach Brown's got some work to do on maybe on the mental side of it than he does on the physical side. I was kind of surprised a little bit. Nate Taylor, they sort of left him out there, Chris, yesterday. I mean, he gave up. He had what was it, 3 home runs, 4 home runs given up. They were not big blasts, not 2 and 3 run homers, but they left him in there, and that might be part of the process of letting him go and grow through all that. I mean, you're talking about a kid who only threw 18 innings last year at Georgia, but balls were getting out of the park like we have been doing here in Nashville in the midweek, and it was just the opposite. We didn't hit any home runs all weekend except yesterday when we went in that late inning barrage and made it close. So yeah, this time of year it is kind of opposite, where you've had guys in the past where you look at ERAs, staff ERA, the best ERA of the regulars is 4.11 with Fennel, and I would safe to say that that's not what you expect from a guy who's coming back, a junior, who with all that experience. Fennel's always, his trouble has been when he gets the ball up in certain times in the count, that's the long ball that happens, and that's happened this year. He's given up quite a few home runs, so you kind of wonder. And I've got some people who've asked me, is he your Friday night guy? Is he the guy? Would he be more comfortable as a Sunday guy? Is he the guy you're going to throw out there in game one against everybody in the SEC's number one guy? And so those are questions that are also be asked too as well, answered.
Yeah. Let's start with Nye. I'm gonna get into some other stuff. What do you think is going on there? I mean, I know that Florida lost Aiden King this weekend with forearm cramps. Have you ever heard of forearm cramps with a pitcher?
Yeah, I mean that's something that is not totally unusual. It's usually a preventative thing that they're going to try to get ahead of before it gets to something else.
Yeah.
Just the lack of velocity. I don't know if you remember TJ Pecoraro.
Yes, I was thinking about that this weekend. I was there in Hoover when that happened. Yeah.
Yeah, and he had the Tommy John surgery, and I think Nye's already had Tommy John.
Yeah, he missed his his senior year of high school. I mean, I remember Sam Leboke, same thing. I remember doing the Georgia series and watching him grab his forearm.
And I don't think it's unusual. Those injuries, I cannot recall. Pecoraro was at the SEC tournament, but am I missing somebody that has happened during the year? They've gotten pretty lucky as far as Tommy John type destructive injuries. Possibly. Yeah. But it's, you hear a lot more of it, I think, at other programs just because of the arm care program that they have. And so again, we don't know that, but let's just hope. Just the lack of velocity is concerning when you have a guy, and why they pulled him so quickly after that with no explanation. So
yeah, well, I mean, like the same thing happened to Aiden King at Florida. Just got pulled in the middle of inning very abruptly, and again, forearm cramps. I don't know if are cramps a precursor to any kind of arm injury, or is it just like if I cramp my leg, playing basketball because I didn't drink enough water or whatever? Like, is a forearm cramp is there anything more to it than that? If it was a cramp,
I think that's just sensitive. If that area is cramping, or you're feeling a strain on that muscle and that tendon, they're going to pull you 99 times out of 100 just to make sure it's nothing. And they must have been something. Those guys, they have people charting and looking at velocity, just like, someone casually. That's someone's job to see that, and probably someone walked over and said, "Hey, something's wrong," and they can tell.
Yeah.
So, but that would be, I don't want to speculate, and hopefully we'll hear something that's good news, and maybe they'll give him another week to work through it or get it checked out, because that's something you don't want to mess with.
Yeah, I mean, like if he's back, there's a path to where their pitching can be okay. If he's not, it becomes a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and it would be difficult for anybody. I mean, you're talking about already a staff that's hasn't really found an identity, and with Fennel, I watched him pitch. He seems like the same guy, and again, his pace. He's always got that quick pace that he tries to work with, but just giving up 4 home runs already this year, getting the ball. I don't know if there's change ups that he gets up in the zone, but he was in there through 4 or 5 innings on the game 1, and then leaves the game not in a dangerous position, but then you have the bullpen blow up on him with 2 straight guys that come in, and that was disconcerting when you have England Bryan and Faulkner who came in behind him, and their lines were just god awful. I mean, England Bryan gave up 4 earned runs in 2/3 of an inning, and Faulkner I don't think got anybody out. But leaving the game when he did, it's a game that teams of Vanderbilt in the past should be able to win and get those games, and it just fell apart. That's an unusual occurrence for this staff, and trying to figure that out is going to be paramount.
I told you there was one thing that I had that I thought might shed a little light on, like, okay, maybe there's something here in terms of underlying stuff that's a little flukish that comes back to earth that actually helps them. The only thing I can really find on pitching, and this is actually kind of loud, I don't have a way to access like fly ball percentage against pitchers. I can get fly outs and I can get ground outs, but like if somebody hit a fly ball double, I don't have access to that. But what I did is I took fly ball outs and then divided them by home runs allowed. For every home run allowed, Vanderbilt is getting 5.3 fly ball outs. The league average is 13.2. So no, I don't know if that means that they're just getting unusually bad luck, which, by the way, that would apply to them too, in terms of maybe like if it's a wind issue or something, or I don't know what it is, but like people will use home runs as a percentage of fly balls, and like that's a thing that kind of corrects over time. Usually, like if you're getting really unlucky, it'll balance itself out. Again, my info's incomplete here. But I mean, that's one thing that does kind of stand out, is like the number of fly balls they're giving up is significantly higher, or the number of home runs for fly balls they're giving up significantly higher than everybody else in the league. And there was a thought there, but I've lost it. Anyway.
Well, I think that the commentators on TV, the balls were flying out of there this weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, especially on yesterday. They were saying, a comment was made about the desert air, kind of that Las Vegas air, and sometimes balls do fly out of that ballpark. And I'm not making excuses, but they were remarking that sometimes there were several balls that were can of corn fly balls that they thought on a normal day, and they were flying out of there. But yeah, I mean, getting the ball up in certain pitch counts, and I was, the guy from Oregon yesterday. I mean, I was told, is he a Friday starter normally? And by the way, he did not throw that pitch 106 miles an hour.
Yeah, no, I think someone said on our board they were facing 3 Friday night starters. Look, and I'll be, for full disclosure, I think people on my board know this. My son had a travel tournament this weekend. So I saw, and my daughter had a Friday night lacrosse game. I saw about half of the Irvine game, and I saw maybe a half inning here and there of the other two. So with my eyes, I did not get to see a whole lot of it.
Yeah, Scolari, the Oregon pitcher, pretty impressive. He threw 6 innings, struck out 8, but he registered 1 pitch at 106.2 miles an hour.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah, no way.
You don't throw. He was sitting 94, 95 the entire game. You do not throw 1 pitch 106, and then that's just highly unusual.
If you do, you're the one in the dugout.
Right. Exactly. But if they did, they faced 3 number 1 guys. I mean, I don't really think that's all anything to. That's okay. You're going to see that every weekend in the SEC. You're going to see that,
Yeah.
And it just makes you better. But I don't know. I just made a list here of 7 issues that I'm a little concerned about, or just that are glaring to me, and get your opinion about it too. And what
let's go with it.
Second base. there's got to be an offensive production out of second base, whether that's, I know they're trying one of the Johnstone brothers, or Ridgen, and you look at the stats overall of those two guys, and Ridgen's batting 267, Carter Johnstone 138. They've alternated those guys, tried different things. It'll be interesting to see who they use. Obviously you got to have the sure fielding, but you would hope that your second baseman would get a little better offensive production out of that.
Well, let me stop you there. Do we know why Rigdon is just a part-timer right now?
No.
I don't either. I mean, that is astonishing to me. I thought Rustin Rigdon might be the best player on the team coming into the year. The strikeout rate has gone down a good bit. He doesn't have an extra base hit all season after he bulked up. That does make me wonder, is he struggling through some kind of injury or something that's hampering him, or is there something else going on? Like, Rustin Rigdon is the kind of guy that Tim Corbin is going to roll out there come hell or high water most of the time. I would think that whole thing is just puzzling. I don't have, and of course I've not been able to be around as much just because of all our games to ask, and I'm hoping I can get out there tomorrow to do it. And they have 2 midweeks, so hopefully I can get out at least one of them. But that to me is just a mystery.
Yeah, and Ridgen struck out 11 times, third on the team as far as in that category, with Gooden being 14. But you're wondering who eventually wins that job. Is it going to be a platoon situation? They're still trying to figure stuff out, and it's just first part of March.
Yeah.
Second question, what's Barzy's situation? I mean, that's a guy who was killing the baseball in Houston. And he slides into home, and I'll watch the video of that. If anybody remembers, there was a play midweek. I can't think it was against Eastern Michigan, and he slid. It was play at the plate, and he kind of he slid around home plate and stuck his shoulder out there, and didn't really wince. You didn't see anything that looked like it was an issue, and then he hadn't played since. And that's a question I would have. Of course, when's Nye going to come back? What's the situation? Is he going to come back? What's the injury? When are the other pitchers, when are the left-handers going to be able to pitch this year? You've got Shorey, Stillman, Green. So that's, you've got 4 pitchers I've just mentioned in the last 30 seconds. Shorey, Stillman, Green, all left-handers, with Green being the most experienced of those. And then you've got Nye's situation. So you've got 4 arms that are question marks right now, 3 of which have not pitched all season. I mentioned this earlier about Fennell. Is he your Friday night guy? Is he the guy that they're going to stick with on Friday? Would you rather have him in a Saturday role or a Sunday role? He's a great talent, but is that something you want to throw him out there? Could it have been maybe a Nye, if he were healthy, would be the Friday night guy, and then and do that with Fennell later? That's something I think they're going to have to figure out. Designated hitter. I know that's always a position. Early in the year, you're going to experiment with guys. I know they've tried Whitcomb, they've tried Mancini, they've tried Gooden. Who is going to land that eventually? Is it a situation where you put one of those guys at first base and you have Maldonado be the DH? Maldonado anchored first base after kind of getting his opportunity midweek. He's the first baseman all weekend in Las Vegas, which I thought was interesting. So who's going to man that DH spot long term? And again, that's a spot that you can sort of platoon, give guys opportunity to see who takes it and runs with it. Number 7, and I don't know if you've noticed this, and you know more about studying numbers and remember trends and when things happen. This team seems like it does not bunt as much. There's not as much station-to-station baseball as it been in the past. If you revert back to what happened in the regional last year, remember that when there was the whole situation in the game where Vastine doesn't bunt, that a lot of people were saying, God, in teams of old, Corbin teams of old, they definitely would have bunted. And then they try to bunt yesterday. And, if there's a team that practices on bunting and getting things down, it's this staff has this team. I mean, it is drilled into their minds. And then we pop it up and get the out in an inning that was turning out to be, battling back and trying. And I will say the effort those guys were in a hole yesterday and coming out of it, getting some home runs, making it close. But then when you had the opportunity in the late innings, you get a pop up out on a bunt and not being able to lay it down. So, I don't think that's anything as far as not being drilled into them. I know that they get that almost every day in practice, working on fundamentals. But when you said, and you mentioned to me before we went on, there were 1 for 35 in runners in scoring position. You're not going to beat Eastern Michigan almost,
Right.
or Marist for 1 for 35 in runners in scoring position. And I think that's the most glaring statistic of all weekend that worries me. And sure, it's correctable, but if you can't move runners over, and if you can't, capitalize when getting runners on base, you're not going to beat anybody.
Yeah, let's hit those one or two right there, and then I'll maybe just work through all of them, because, man, I think there's a lot of stuff to unpack on that list of things. First of all, I didn't really care for the bunt yesterday. They have 2 on. Oregon struggling to throw strikes. The bullpen, I think, has been an issue for Oregon. It was perceived to be one coming in. They're mixing and matching. Unless you just don't trust Corbin Reynolds to put the ball in play, I don't get it. Hadn't he hit a long home run, like to the opposite field, or maybe not long, but to the opposite field.
Yeah, earlier.
He did. So I don't understand. You're asking a freshman to lay a bunt down in that spot. No, he's not going to walk. Maybe that might be part of it. He hasn't walked all year. I just didn't. I mean, he's not. He struck out 20% of the time. That's about average. I don't. Yeah. That one I didn't really understand.
Yeah, and it just is. As far as traditionalist, I guess you would say. I mean, as much as they work on it, it would be nice to get those guys over. They're runners at first, second. You pop it up, and then but we're not living in a traditional world of baseball with arc swings. And I mean, just think about this team in the home run wise. They didn't hit one Friday or Saturday, but all the runs came from home runs. I mean, you wonder if this is a change of philosophy of hitting instructors from a year, but obviously they're doing some different things with their swings. Just I don't know. It's traditionalist versus, like you're saying, a guy who put in play. You could go either way.
I mean, go ahead.
No, just in the early years, it was all bunt by the staff. I mean, it was in that situation, it was automatic that you would think that was going to happen. So.
Yeah. I mean, I do think you need to be able to win some different ways. Like the Braves, remember that one year, a couple of years ago, where they just hit all kinds of home runs, almost set like a record. And then the next year they couldn't score. It's like they stopped hitting home runs and then they just couldn't string stuff together. Spoiler alert, I'm not super worried about the offense. I mean, it could still go bad, I guess, but I think there's enough talent there. They got a lot of dudes, and you hit on the Barcy injury. I mean, Corbin Reynolds has hit better than Barcy.
Yeah.
In his time. So that one hasn't even. Now defensively, I haven't seen enough of Reynolds to know. I know he's, I think he's fairly regarded as a defensive catcher, isn't he? I think that was like his rep coming out of high school. So that may be one that's not even hurting them much right now. By the way, how weird is it? Barcy hit 3 home runs on opening day. And none since. And again, a lot of that he's been out, but still.
Right. And you might be able that more about RPI and strength of schedule. You follow that real close throughout the years, and you've got people wanting to talk about jump off tall buildings about like our RPIs. What is it? It's and strength of schedule. Well, that's going to take care of itself.
Yeah, I mean it's a little too early. I did hear someone say they were 211. It's like, oh yeah, wow, now that may be a bit of a hole. I think strength of schedule is good. Now I will tell you this, and this is good and bad. I think their SEC schedule. Now the first part is brutal, and the league is going to be tough. But I do think the second half it's going to ease up considerably. It's just going to be, can they survive the gauntlet they're going to run with Texas and LSU and Mississippi State? And you're already down a couple games. Like if they go 3-3 in in those two events, it feels a little different, although the issues are still, still there. That doesn't change that, but the season does feel a little different. Unfortunately they lost 5 of those 6 and most of them, I guess they lost one run game, a 2-run game. And then everything, Oklahoma State was a blowout. Irvine was 9-4. And then who's the other one? Oh, the other one was a win, I guess. But anyway,
Yeah.
I'm talking too much here.
No, so you go LSU here in Nashville, and then it's at State, who's on a roll. Although they did lose last night, right? First time.
Extra innings 10-7 to UCLA, which is number 1.
Yeah, so you're that first week, and you just and as I told somebody this weekend against North Dakota State, you're not going to learn a whole lot maybe about your team, but just getting these guys confidence back after and you want to just get back on field. Of course, the midweek games too. You got Central Arkansas, and you've got Troy, but
Troy won't be easy,
right? I mean, those guys. They beat Georgia.
Georgia, one of Georgia's few losses.
Right. So, but getting back out there, there's nothing worse. And when you get swept, I remember the games when getting swept, you just want to get back on the field and you want to just get in the cage and work things out. But there is something to be said about pressing also. And I just wondered sometimes if this team presses just a little bit too much, even though it's so early in the season. But isn't that true how February just flies by? It's like now, I mean, I keep thinking it's still February, but it's March and the real stuff starts after this weekend, and it is going to be a gauntlet. That is but the whole league's a gauntlet. But LSU coming here is going to be vital. You're going to have to win some games. You're going to have to, like you mentioned, split those or take a series, and so you're not just in a hole mentally, and you're not in a hole in the standings, psychologically, in the standings as well. You can't get anybody else hurt. You got to get some guys back as well.
We were talking the runners in scoring position thing.
Yeah.
I'm not that concerned about it. I think honestly, Stevie Wonder could sit at the plate and take blind hacks and do better than 1 for 35. Now, running to first base might be an issue, but
True.
But I mean, I think they'll be fine there. I do think that you probably are pressing. I'm not saying that that didn't play a role. I'm guessing it did. And like, how does the game end yesterday? First pitch, Brody Johnson, probably trying to hit a grand slam, win the game, pops up. But I don't think that's going to be a thing. Like generally, and I see this year to year, like they have a week or two where they just don't hit with runners in scoring position and fans just lose their mind. Oh, they don't do this. And then in the next week they go, 18 for 42 in the same spots. Right. And it just washes out. But anyway,
what do you think about Maldonado? Because here's a guy that everybody's rooting for. I think he's been around the program a while. He wasn't getting his opportunities, and early on in Houston, maybe he got one at bat. They threw him out there, and then midweek he gets out there, gets a couple hits, and then he doesn't leave first base all weekend. If I'm mistaken, I think he started every game, which wasn't the case the first 2-3 weeks. And then so who do you that triangle of Maldonado, Whitcomb, Mancini, Gooden. That's not a triangle; it's 4-sided triangle. That hypotenuse.
It's called a square or rectangle.
Rhombus.
Rhombus. It could be a rhombus. That's true.
But that those 4 guys, you're trying to find the right chemistry out on first base, and then also who's going to be your DH. I know it's situational sometimes with who's pitching.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Because I mean, Maldonado again, he did really well this weekend. I mean, when he got his opportunities, and he looks comfortable at first, but I don't know.
I mean, that was entirely predictable. Give that guy a shot and see what he can do. I mean, he's the prototypical, team leader, has stuck around, has played through stuff. Like Corbin's going to give that guy a shot 9 times out of 10. So I'm fine with it. And you're going, okay, what about the production? Hey, he's 19 plate appearances into the season, hasn't struck out yet. I mean, that's hard to do. He's been
Sure.
fairly productive. He's slugging .529. I think they thought he was maybe their best defensive first baseman, either he or Jensen. Jensen gives you a lefty option if you need. So does Gooden. The problem with Gooden is Gooden's striking out 44% of the time,
Right.
which in 32 plate appearances is a lot. So I think, and where the damage has been done has been against the Eastern Michigan. So I think to me that looks like a little overmatched perhaps.
Yeah. And, I think this week, absolutely, the midweek games are vital for them, just as I mentioned, just to get their confidence back. You got to get some at-bats to some guys and get their pitching, both sides, pitching and hitting, getting those guys to where they're confident once again, getting some wins under their belt. You get 2 opportunities this week, as mentioned, and they won't be pushovers. That Central Arkansas and Troy games will probably be more competitive than the North Dakota State ones, I would think.
Yeah.
And then you head into it. I mean, the following week, it's Indiana State, who's always can be competitive, and then LSU comes to town for the 3-game series. So, and what to think of, Chris? There was that graphic of I saw on ESPN. I think it was ESPN who tweeted it. Who's the Family Feud guy? That graphic they put his, the Family Feud host.
Who is it now?
Anyway, but it was like he had his mouth open about the upsets in the SEC on that night, and it was back. It was just one after the other, in major games, not just the SEC but nationally, and it's happening. It's out there. It's real. The Troy's beating the Georgias, and you're gonna see that throughout the early part of the season. Pitching, as I've mentioned on this with you before, pitching usually. Hitting catches up with pitching later in the year, mid-March, April, where the pitching kind of and it sort of evens out to where you're seeing some more dominant performances. But we'll have to keep an eye on that and see if that continues throughout the year with these upsets midweek.
Yeah, Central Arkansas is 7-5. By the way, I thought they played an SEC team, but maybe not. I believe they beat Vanderbilt at home a year or 2 ago.
They might have. I think so. I
don't know that this is not that you can change it now. I don't know if this is the week you want to have 2 midweeks coming off a long flight and being short some arms potentially. And they're like, if a couple of those lefties come back and Nye is okay, then that's a different discussion. But like, this is a tough spot.
Yeah, you can look at it 2 ways, but I think the mentality of the staff is they would want to get out there this afternoon.
Sure.
I mean, I know what you mean, but and as a competitor and as an athlete, I think those guys want to do that well as well. Just get out there and play to where and get the taste out of your mouth, because that's very unusual to have that happen. You mentioned one time. And there was another time I think we went to Oregon, if I'm not mistaken, and didn't have a very good weekend. I don't think we got swept though. But that Stanford
that's been a while.
The Stanford one was definitely comes to mind. As one that was rough weekend.
Ugly. Yeah, that was a team that was young and just not ready, and they were awful. And that was one of his teams that like they'd lost so many games early in the season that you're just like, this is going to be the year they don't go to the tournament. And they matured and caught fire at the end. Now I think the issue is I think the league is more competitive now than it was then. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. There's just so many thoughts between the questions you've got and some that I had coming in. But on the schedule, this is maybe the good news. The teams they don't play in the league and where I have them ranked right now. They don't play Auburn, which I have is 5. They don't play Florida, which I have is 4 in the league. Arkansas I have is 6. Georgia I've got is 8. And Ole Miss I've got at 10. So that means they play I think I would rank Vanderbilt 14 right now out of 16. So they don't play they do play Missouri, South Carolina, Alabama, Kentucky, who I've got in that lower end, although Alabama and Kentucky are both good teams. And Carolina has its moments. And Missouri's playing a lot better, but it's playing, teams probably worse than Eastern Michigan or close to it.
Right.
But now they do get, the top, in my estimation, the top 3, I think in everybody's estimation right now, they do draw LSU, Texas, and Mississippi State. I think that's what Okay, Texas is late in the season, which is good. But they draw LSU here and then at Mississippi State the first 2 weekends, and you could even argue that those are no, Texas is the best team in the league, but anyway, I think that's 2 and 3.
It would be interesting to see some kind. I don't know how you would do it either. Who's got the? I'm sure there's a metric that would do it. Who's got the easier schedule? Because we're not. You got to remember, 16. You're not playing everybody.
Yeah.
And everybody's got to get. Look what the South Carolina pitcher did, Clemson, on Friday night. I mean, didn't he throw like 73 pitches? A Greg Maddux type. They called it the Greg Maddux type outing. And South Carolina has been abysmal this year.
I think it was Clemson's pitcher that did that, though, wasn't it? Then on Saturday. Or am I getting it mixed up? I know South Carolina did shut them out on Friday.
Friday night was with the South Carolina pitcher who was pumping his arms and talking trash to the dugout. And Bakich didn't like that too much. And then Saturday was the Clemson pitcher. My fault. Yeah. So that Clemson South Carolina series is one I'd love to kind of just peek in at one time and watch it, because there is a hatred of that between those guys. I mean, I don't know if you saw that. Bakich said we don't celebrate like we just won the World Series. It was on the Saturday after they won on Saturday. He says, well, tell us what you think. He goes, well, it's good to get a win, but we're not going to go out there and celebrate like we won the World Series. We're here to win the series, and we're going to take, we want to take 2 out of 3. And then he kind of had to backtrack it a little bit on Sunday. Just say what he's
really pretty excited.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So
they were doing, someone, I didn't see it, but someone said like, I think their relievers are like between innings, like motioning to the crowd, like during like the game, we're like motioning to the crowd to make more noise or something.
Yeah, Auburn does on the mound. Auburn does a little bit. I watched them that Nebraska game on, I think it was Friday when
that was a wild one. Yeah,
and they brought in that guy with the handlebar mustache. Finally got him out, but Nebraska just collapsed on. I mean, almost just gave it away.
Yeah. Or Auburn did on.
Yeah, right.
Well, and then Nebraska, I think Auburn ended it with the bases loaded. That was a wild game and a good one too.
Yeah.
I know you got to be out of here in a few minutes, and I do too. I wanted to circle back on some other stuff. Do we have any idea on the lefties when they're returning?
No, 2 Nashville guys, as a matter of fact, which is kind of unusual. But actually 3. Let's see, Green.
Shorey is Nashville, Father Ryan, right. And then Stillman is from Florida. Is it Florida? Well, he was a Virginia commit.
Right.
I think he's a Florida kid, maybe.
No idea on those guys, and it just they're pretty tight-lipped about that stuff.
Extremely.
Yeah, which is, but Miller Green, I know he's had some outings where last year he gave us some home runs and some walk-offs or whatever. But I mean, he's a guy that you were going to be counting on. He's a big, tall guy. When he's on, but no. And so you're, again, 4 guys who are being counted on, if you include Nye, have a question mark by them. And you look at statistics, and they're not even on the sheet. 3 of those guys, Nye is, but not those 3 guys. So no idea. Haven't been told. Maybe that'll get asked midweek after one of the games, hopefully after a victory.
Well, this is a bad news, not really good news, but trying to find some optimism in it. Their veteran bullpen arms, I just don't think could possibly be much worse than they've been.
I mean, look at and I feel for some of the guys that, England, this when you go back to back with England Bryan and Jacob Faulkner and those guys, the thing that was different about them compared to what I've seen in years past is they just didn't look comfortable. And Corbin talks about heartbeat and having a low heartbeat when you're out there in pressure situations, but not even finding the dish, not even getting close is something that's terribly unusual for those guys. And not everybody has it, and it has to be acquired sometimes. You have to go out there and go through it before you learn how to slow your heartbeat down in a pressure situation. You'll see your kid. What does he play? Is he a pitcher at all?
He pitches some. Pitched an inning this weekend.
There's a difference between going out there and throwing in practice and going out there when there's a lot of people there and it's first time out there and you're in Las Vegas and all that. But that's just unusual to see that way. If you got a game that's sort of you're neck and neck on Friday in hand, and then it just blows up on you, and it's deflating for all the position guys too. But one other thing that not on this isn't. I don't really care about rankings because look what happened last year. We were the number 1 seed in the tournament and got bounced in the regional. But it's the first time, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot. When's the last time we were not ranked? I know we weren't ranked going out.
A couple of years ago, maybe.
Maybe, yeah, but I mean, it wasn't. But that this early, usually it's the opposite. You could,
that's true, right?
And I get the concern by the fans. They're anxious. Hadn't been out of a regional a couple of years, and don't think that anybody's not more frustrated than this staff and these guys. Yeah. They know that what the expectations are of this program, and it's a lot better than what they put out there. But trust me, stay away from sharp objects, Vanderbilt fans. Things might turn around here real quick. But I think the reality of it is I think you're hopefully going to see what happens Tuesday, Wednesday, and not make the assumptions of what happens on the weekend. You just want to steamroll Tuesday, Wednesday, build a couple wins one after another, and then take that to the weekend so you can have some momentum going into against the LSU.
Well, if they can get one against Troy, that's like, okay, we beat a good baseball team. And
right.
Got a little something to build on. I mean, as far as Central Arkansas, nobody's going to be, holding that up as a trophy, but just win it and get through it.
Sure.
You lose it, then the noise gets louder. I mean, their back's a little bit against the wall right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and they know that. Don't think they don't know that either. And I don't think once again those guys in that dugout over there know what is expected of them and what tradition is and what goals they have. And they know they don't talk about Omaha. It's never really mentioned in their locker room, but they know the tradition. And they know that they haven't been out of the regional, and they know that people are squawking and talking and about that they're not ranked and. That they went 1 for 35 in runners and scoring positions. It's kind of like the basketball team. Those guys know that they haven't played well on the road lately. They know, it's sometimes as fans, people can think like, why can't they see this? They know they can see this. They're fully aware of the situation. So
they're a little more invested than we are.
Yeah, I would think so.
Like it's only their whole life leading up to this. So
right.
A couple more things on your list, and then we'll get a couple of mailbag questions and get you out of here. So we'll need to pace ourselves accordingly. You had mentioned what is Fennell? I mean, to me, I would rather not have Fennell starting on Friday. I would rather have him doing almost anything else, either the Saturday game or the Sunday, or more preferably the role that he was used in last year.
Sure.
But if they don't get Nye back and healthy, they're not going to have a lot of choice but to use him somewhere. Now, I might consider doing Friday as an opener situation because, man, there are some dudes in the league this year.
Sure. I know. That's when you start getting into matchups. Yeah. You start saying,
and I don't know that I want to burn Fennell, against Liam Peterson or, name your guy. You remember a couple of years ago, Tennessee just went opener on Friday.
Sure.
And they pitched. I mean, I might think about that and see if you catch lightning in a bottle, but I'm not going to say you concede game one against some of these teams, but I just don't think, especially with the way he gives up home runs, I think pairing him against Dylan Volantis or Kason Evans or whatever, I don't know, man. You're going to have to be elite to beat those guys, and you may waste a good performance. So I don't know. We'll see what he does. I would rather have him in that break glass in case of emergency spot that he was in a year ago.
Fennell seems like the type of pitcher to me, and this is not anything about his ability or future, what he's going to do. But as far as his time here at Vanderbilt, he's a guy who, and we all pitched. I pitched better with a lead. You pitch with it, but if he can get somewhat of support in the first inning, 2 or 3, he gets lockdown mode.
That's true.
And those games where it's 0-0 in the 5th, and he's still in there. It tends to be, and again, that's some people might be doubting me, say, well, what pitcher doesn't pitch better with lead? But again, I think he just becomes the vice grip that he has over the game, his pace. He's working quickly. He's mixing his pitches up. He's been able to waste pitches when he needs to. I just saw that a lot more last year. And when you're thrown into that Friday night game, like you said, you're facing some of the best pitchers in the country, not just forget the SEC, the country, frontline guys. It's going to be hard to get that run support that early. So,
yeah. You asked about DH. I mean, I don't know, fill the other spots lately. I mean, Mancini needs to be in there somewhere. He's been pretty good. Somebody asked about him at second. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I still would like to know what's up with Rigdon and why he's not playing before I answer any of that.
Well, like I said, you had Whitcomb, Mancini, and Gooden all shared that role this weekend.
Yeah.
So, different spots as far as starting, at least. So
yeah, let's do mailbag questions quickly so I can get you out of here. The mailbag is presented by our friends at Sutherland and Belk, a family-owned injury law firm. If you or a loved one has been hurt in an accident, give Taylor Russell a call, 615-846-6200. See what your rights are and if they can help. Guest line presented by friend of the show, John Levin and Womble Bond Dickinson. Okay. Let's see. Oh, I clicked the wrong link. Hang on, give me a minute. Did it again. Sorry.
It's all right.
Guess the mailbag got pushed down the page. Funny, people don't want to talk when you're losing. Stevie U98, is this team not up to Vanderbilt baseball standards, or do you expect them to turn things around?
The pitching is not up to standards. I think you answered that. And it's got to work itself out. I think that I'm not worried if you have to worry about offense, defense, or pitching. I'm not worried about the offense and the defense. I'm worried more about the pitching and the depth and the injuries. And a lot of that has culminated in the reasons why I think that they've struggled. And so I'm not going to throw a big blanket over the whole situation and say that the whole year has been something that is fire engine red alarm sirens shining over on West End, that the sky's falling. But I do think the pitching staff is not as dominant so far. There are reasons behind that. There could be because of these injuries, and they got to work through that. And if they don't, they're going to run into a buzzsaw first couple weekends with LSU, State, Tennessee, boom, boom, boom. And we'll know a whole lot more then. But you can't afford to go, lose a couple series in a row or get 2 or 3 or get swept in one of them. As I mentioned always in the show, you can't get swept in this league. It comes back to haunt you later. It happens. But they got swept this weekend, but it doesn't matter in the SEC standings. But you definitely can't get swept in the conference. It's just a no-no. So I would say I'm not going to throw a blanket on the whole team as far as expectations. I think we still got some time to figure that out. But pitching is definitely something that's a concern, and they're going to have to work through.
I'll give you the sunny side up here. First, hopefully that would include Nye being okay. But, I mean, when they got Stillman was ranked as a top 25 I saw some lists like the top 25 freshmen in the country for this year, and he was on a lot of those, maybe even in the top 10,
right?
Maybe even like, top 5 freshman pitcher in the country type thing. Now, look, I don't know what's going on with him. There's a long way between when somebody put that list together and whatever's happening with him. I think he, didn't throw in the fall. So I don't know what he is out of the wrapper, but like there's potential. Shorey was a guy that was being talked about as a weekend guy before the season started. And Green was, I believe, a freshman All-American 2 years ago. And for people, a lot of people just kind of gave up on Miller Green. People tend to do that. But I mean, they did it with Maldonado too. And right now there's a pretty decent player in there. Sometimes you just need to get healthy or clear your head or whatever. So I wouldn't give up on Miller Green, or the possibility that all three of those guys end up really helping them. And if that happens, then this is a very different conversation. And plus, like, I don't think Kranzler and Cyber and Faulkner, look, maybe none of them are good this year, but I don't know that they're as bad as they've been.
Yeah. And Guth, I mean, you've got guys who've been out there, who have the experience. It's just their job to figure it out. And you don't figure it out until you get more opportunities. You got to get more, this staff, I will say, Brownie and Corbin, those guys do throw guys out there and give them more opportunities. It's not just a one and done.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't work those things out without getting back out there and getting that opportunity.
Well, and you know who's been fantastic too is Wyatt Nadeau. Like,
yes,
7 scoreless, 30% strikeout rate, 7% free pass rate, hasn't given up a home run. I mean, you get to a point where you're bleeding arms, then that may be a weekend guy.
Exactly.
Report card on guys starting pitching. He wants letter grades. That to me is like a B-ish.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Relievers, I'd give the bullpen D at best, probably D minus.
Yeah.
Defense, B.
We're averaging about an error a game, I think.
Oh, okay.
But in today's
D
world,
minus?
I don't think. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Power, I mean, that's an A.
Yeah.
Top to bottom production, B. B minus.
B minus.
And a couple in the chat quickly. Why not put Mike Mancini back at second? Sure. And then why won't Corbin bring in big time transfers? Is asked. I have questions about money there. I really do. I think they were interested. I think they're interested in more people than people perceive. They keep it pretty quiet, but it felt like all the big fish went elsewhere. And a lot of those guys are going to be playing against them this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which begs that begs a question. Like I felt like they have kind of moneyballed the portal together. Like Logan Johnstone, good find. Max Jensen may end up being a good find. Mancini, didn't do much last year because of the injury, but he's been a good player. But like they're not landing the guys that you're seeing on preseason All-American teams that the rest of the SEC did. And that's where I think I have some questions.
Well, and close this up. I read our article. It was on Tiger Rag. I think it is LSU's has a deal. And I might even read it on it was on Twitter and I got reference to it. But I mean, you've got Johnstone at LSU complaining about money. I mean,
what?
Oh yeah. There's some people who are thinking that, well, is he going to go to the major leagues like Vitello? Did Vitello open the door and someone's going to pay for him to do that and make the leap, and that the revenue sharing model where football is getting all the money, if you add more to football, you add one, it's taking away from another sport. And some people are worried at LSU that, I think a quote he was given in the article, he mentioned something like, well, we're there, but we're not where we need to be as far as revenue share. And so when you start getting a team,
I don't know, man. After the transfers they got, I don't know that I believe that.
Yeah. So it's just, and whether this staff wants to play that game or not, I don't think they do. They're having to go out and buy players, but it's the reality of the world. And but when I saw that article struck me, I was just like, sure, if they're complaining down there, what the article in a synopsis was, it's gotten so football heavy. It's going to be so football heavy with the revenue share and the resources that you're going to have teams that might pay a coach X at a really talented school that's going to say, okay, we really don't care about football. We're going to throw our money behind baseball. We're going to be okay with being 6-6 or in football or whatever, but we're really going to throw our money at basketball, or we're going to throw our money at baseball. And whether someone takes a stab as far as buying players and using that money, or buying coaches and using that money. But it was in Tiger Rag. I'll send it to you if I can find it. But it was an interesting article that even the ones that you think are getting drunk on the money and like you mentioned, the portal success they have, that they're complaining, or they're kind of raising the temperature a little bit.
Well, they did lose a bunch of freshmen, but they also got a few guys through the draft that most people don't get.
Right.
So anyway, hey, I know you've got an out like right now, and
Sure.
I pretty much do too. So thanks, man. Appreciate you joining us. We'll do this again next week.
Sure. Take care.
All right. For Chip Frederick, I'm Chris Lee. Thanks for watching the Vandy 247 podcast presented by FanDuel.